2020 has been a most extraordinary year. Through what will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the most challenging periods in our lives, we've also been blessed to see some incredible humanity rise in spite of it. Every year, CWEALF honors women who go above and beyond in their support of the women and girls in our community and throughout our state. This year is no different, even though the circumstances under which we are living are remarkably different than anything any of us could have anticipated. Each of the women that we are honoring this year activated immediately to serve and protect the most vulnerable among us. While many of us were only able to focus on our own families and our own lives, each of the women that we're honoring today looked outside of themselves to those they knew needed a wider circle of support. Each of us at CWEALF would love for all of you to take these examples and learn from them how you can reflect their generosity into your communities. We are all individually suffering, and it has lasted much longer than any of us could have ever imagined. But as we find our way through this, let us commit to never losing sight of the most vulnerable among us. I am proud to honor these women who are extraordinary during this extraordinary year. CWEALF began One Woman Makes a Difference in 1988 to honor individuals and organizations who advance gender equity in the state of Connecticut. The award is called the Maria Miller Stewart Award. Maria Miller Stewart was a young, free African-American woman who addressed a crowd of men and women in 1832 in Boston's Franklin Hall, becoming the first woman in America to address mixed gender and race audiences on the topic of abolition. Though very little is known about her life aside from her writings and her speeches, Stewart's contributions to the political and social debate of her time are invaluable. Stewart continued to speak out against racial and gender discrimination with a renewed sense of faith in the possibility for change. Each year, CWEALF honors her indelible spirit by recognizing women working to improve the lives of women and girls in the state in her name. Our first honoree is the CT Undocufund. CWEALF honors the organizers behind the CT Undocufund for quickly establishing a fund to provide direct assistance to undocumented immigrant families and individuals who were ineligible for state and federal relief aid during the COVID-19 public health crisis. CT Undocufund's goal is to address this gap through fundraising in an effort to provide direct assistance to the most vulnerable members of the community. CT Undocufund raised and distributed $80,000 to 99 families across our state, enabling them to obtain essential health services, to pay their bills, to buy groceries, and to stay in their homes. Speaking on behalf of CT Undocufund today is Katya Daly.
Thank you, Eileen, for this award. Greetings, everyone. My name is Katya Daly. I am an immigrant from Peru and came to the United States 11 years ago. I am currently working with Connecticut Students for a Dream as I organize with young people around the census, voter registration, and civic engagement work. I play as a behind-the-scenes person in most of my work with Connecticut Undocufund, but I am honored to have this platform today to speak briefly about who we are and the work that we do. The CT Undocufund is a small group of undocumented, formerly undocumented immigrants, child of immigrants, organizers, educators, and artists. Our goal is to support immigrants who have been financially impacted by the pandemic and not eligible for any other source of support so that these families can meet their basic needs and survive this pandemic. As you all know, the undocumented community is not eligible for stimulus checks, and many of us are at the forefront of this pandemic as essential workers. Some have lost their jobs and are unable to apply to any aid, so the need is great. It has been incredible being part of this group where we are all honest about our limited capacities, but we get things done together and have built a real community virtually. I am grateful for how this movement has given me space to be me and also has challenged me with forgiveness, love, and care. It has shown me how we can spend what I believe is possible. Besides doing grassroots fundraising and grant writing, our team has also hosted several digital events. A Facebook live stream series called The Breaking Bread and Borders, conversations about food, migration, and home. We have also had our virtual town hall called Surviving COVID Without Papers, and our Undocu Poetry Week with Instagram live stream to uplift and amplify the voices and experiences of Black, Asian, disabled, queer, and trans undocumented folks and immigrants around Connecticut and beyond. This past round, we have more than 1,000 applications for financial relief, and we do not have enough money to support everyone. It has been heartbreaking saying no to many families that really need this aid. Every day, I see my community on the ground taking care of each other, asking each other what they need, pulling together resources, and making sure that we can all survive this crisis. I am thinking about the luchadores, fighters of La Bodeguita de la Gente, Semilla Collective, Core City, and City Undocu Fund. I see communities full of love, moving mountains to ensure that we are all taken care of. Meanwhile, the state has left us behind. In June, Governor Lamont announced a small $2.5 million housing aid program and a $1 million private effort to provide 4CT gift cards. But rollout has been slow and the aid insufficient. We're encouraging everyone to push Governor Lamont to create real relief now for our undocumented community and get involved and support the work of coalitions such as the Cancel Rent, Immigrants Are Essential, and Husky for Immigrants. Of course, beyond relief, we need long-term systemic change. We need to work together to create a future where families like mine aren't scared anymore, a future where we're not criminalized, where my parents can come back to Peru and visit our family, where my mom can have just one day rest from work, where we are not afraid to go to the hospital because of the cost of healthcare is too high. Lastly, I want to thank the donors from City Undocu Fund, the Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund for this award, and the entire City Undocu Fund team for all their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Katia with CT Undocu Fund for your inspiring speech. 5 years ago, I was asked to join an organization that sought to create a more equitable world for women and girls. As a public health professional and as an educator, I was struck by CWEALF's systems-based, intersectional approach to removing barriers that women and girls face at home, at school, in the workplace, and in society in general. In the ensuing years, CWEALF has had major policy successes, including paid family leave, but there is still lots of work to be done. At this time, we risk losing so much of the progress that we have made, and we need your support now more than ever. I hope that our amazing honorees will inspire you to continue to support our important work. Our next honoree is Jacqueline Robb Thomas, Education and Children's Issues Reporter with the Connecticut Mirror. CWEALF honors Jacqueline Robb Thomas for her commitment to outstanding, in-depth investigative reporting on housing segregation and educational equity issues in Connecticut's past and present. Without Jacqueline's relentless inquiries into the injustices most commonly affecting many of those we serve at CWEALF, these inequities across our state would stay hidden. Her tireless advocacy has brought these systemic injustices to light so that they can be addressed and eradicated. Recently, Jacqueline's year-long series, Separated by Design, won first place for investigative enterprise reporting by the New England Newspaper and Press Association. Jacqueline.
Thank you, Ashika. It really is an honor to receive this award today. I'm so humbled by having this recognition. It really is important for people who share their stories with me. And really the bravery goes to all the people and all the women who feel comfortable enough and trust me enough to share their stories with the public. There's a Shauna Cunningham who is homeless, and she is making minimum wage, and a car accident meant she no longer had a car, and it also meant that she could no longer get to work. And her story stays with me today because one thing can put people on the verge of homelessness. And for Shauna Cunningham, it was getting into a car accident and not being able to get to work. And then there's Crystal Carter, who let me join her for trip after trip after trip to hear landlords tell her they don't accept Section 8. They won't accept her housing voucher. That's illegal in Connecticut, but so many people that I came in touch with over the course of that story told me it was happening to them, but were fearful of sharing their stories. So the bravery of Crystal Carter to share her story, to make it public, and understand that there could be some ramifications when every time someone Googles her name and sees that story come up, she understood that there was an importance to that story, but she also understood that there was really good people out there. So her story worked out for her, that there was a landlord willing to take a chance on her. There's also Misty Bidwell, who is living in a motel. She was impacted by COVID. She lost her job. She was a school bus driver, and she's now homeless and living in a motel. The state doesn't consider her homeless. People who live in motels aren't deemed homeless by the state standards. But it does mean for her that she has separated from her family. And so for her to share her story about how she had to leave her son because she didn't want him living in a motel, that's bravery right there. I don't know if I could share the same stories if I was in such a vulnerable position. So for these women to come forward and share their stories with me, it's really about them right now and helping me understand what's going on with them. And there's countless other people who share their stories with me who don't feel comfortable going public. They're still brave as well, and their stories do matter. There's a lot of people who come forward with me with sources as well, and who tell me things like their clients in DCF haven't seen their kids for months during the pandemic, and there's no end in sight of when that's going to happen. And the impact of emotional health that's having on both the family and the child while they are stuck not seeing their kids, but for a Zoom meeting, not being able to hug their children and what the impact that's having. Also, the story of sources brought to me about a Waterbury child a little girl, 4 years old, being arrested by police because she had mental health illnesses, and the school didn't have a system to respond to her. They had no full-time social worker in that school or other mental health professional. There's countless other stories like this that are not possible without people coming to me and being willing to share their stories and trusting me with their stories. It's also a matter of the Connecticut Mirror where I work, them helping me have the time. My editor regularly tells me the story's ready when it's ready. And I know that my newsroom really values making sure we get the full story out there rather than being the first one out there necessarily. There's always the fear that we're going to be scooped on something. But what we know is that if we spend the time to get the story out there, that the community will really appreciate it, and I hope everyone else does as well. And this award really helps me understand that the time and energy that we spend on stories really does matter to people. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I now have the honor of introducing a musical interlude from the Ethel Walker School Drumming Band. There was such energy and passion around their performance last year at our event that we had to bring them back for the virtual world. Please enjoy this incredible piece. That was amazing. Our sincere thanks to the Ethel Walker School for providing that piece. It's now my honor to introduce our third honoree this year, Melinda Johnson. CWEALF honors Melinda Johnson for her service to the Hartford community and beyond, her advocacy for racial justice, and for organizing and leading a televised memorial service to honor George Floyd and other victims of police violence in June of 2020. This event galvanized hundreds in solidarity to mourn Mr. Floyd and to commit to ending racial injustice across our state. Melinda's fearless leadership and call to action inspire all of us at CWEALF.
Thank you, Eileen, for this opportunity and for presenting me with this award. The Maria Miller Stewart Award, I can't even begin to express what it means to be standing here at this point in life, having worked on the CWEALF team. The Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund has not only been a dynamic and instrumental part of the overall community in Connecticut, but the women at the Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund have been an instrumental part of my life. There's a lot of things that bring us to our work, especially in these times. For some of us, it's education. For others, it's training or passion. For me, it's been personal experience. In many aspects, I am not an expert in this arena. I didn't particularly go to work for policy. I didn't particularly get my education in policy work, but what I am is an expert in my own experience. And so standing here at this time, in this moment, as a Black woman, recognizing how much we've struggled this year in 2020 throughout a pandemic, through racial injustice, through natural disasters, through so many personal and collective catastrophes, I recognize that I represent not just my own work, not just the labors of my thoughts and my hands, but a whole host of community members, a whole heritage, a whole ancestry stands on my back as I stand on their shoulders. And so, in being grateful for this opportunity in this moment, and being grateful for receiving this award, I am also grateful to CWEALF, to the YWCA Hartford region where I find my home right now and continue the work, to my family who continue to see the potential in me and see the need for our voices to be raised at this time, for my community that continues to be resilient despite the struggles that we face on an ongoing basis, to my church family who continues to hold me in prayer and follow the lead and the guidance of my husband and I and our leadership as we travel in a spiritual journey just as much as we travel in a social justice journey. This walk is one that has been unexpected for me. But as I continue to meet the challenges, I am excited and ever encouraged by the phenomenal women and other phenomenal individuals that I meet along this journey, who, with their passions, with their experiences, and with all the talent and drive that they bring to the table, continue to labor on. So this year, next year, and forevermore, let this be the moment, let this be a reminder that one woman makes a difference in her community, in her family, in her places of education and workplaces. One woman makes a difference. Thank you for acknowledging the small differences I've been allowed to make. Wait. Okay, wait, one more thing. Can't go without saying thank you to my beloved husband. Words can't express how much you mean to me and how much your sacrifice on a daily basis to allow me to do the work that so passionately drives me has created these spaces that allow me to be productive and allow me to contribute to a greater cause. So thank you to my husband, Ashley J. Johnson, and to our children, Ashton and Addison. Woo, boys, do you have a legacy to step into? So I am excited to be your mother. I am excited, Ashley, to be your wife, and so grateful to do this work with you.
Thank you, Melinda, for your incredible words. I would like to now introduce our fourth honoree this year, Rochelle Palachi, Assistant Director of SEIU 32BJ. CWEALF honors Rochelle Palachi for her commitment and leadership to protect and advance workers' rights in Connecticut. In 2019, Rochelle was a leader in advocating for the passage of legislation to raise Connecticut's minimum wage to implement one of the most comprehensive paid family and medical leave programs in the nation, and the Trust Act to implement protections for Connecticut's immigrant community. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Rochelle has led efforts to protect essential workers in service plazas and rest stops from wage theft and other worker violation rights. Rochelle.
I'm honored to join the ranks of this year's amazing One Woman Can Make a Difference honorees, Melinda, Carolina, Katia, and Jacqueline. I smile because I've had the pleasure of working alongside some of these honorees who have provided tremendous support to me and our union members, especially during this very difficult year in which women of color have suffered disproportionately in the coronavirus pandemic and in the pandemic of racist violence that have rocked our nation and the world. Women have suffered 55% of all job losses at the start of the pandemic. And Black and Hispanic women have suffered most of all, reporting the highest rates of food insecurity, lost income, and missed housing payments of any other demographic. I take the responsibility very seriously of helping thousands of women as well as men who have toiled beside them in essential positions like security and office cleaning. As I move into a position of leadership this year at 32BJ SEIU in Connecticut. 32BJ represents essential workers of all colors and creeds, and we are unapologetically an anti-racist organization, leading the fight for social justice as one of the nation's largest unions, where people of color and immigrants make up the majority of the union's membership. Our members inspire me every day to fight for what is right. I carry their spirit, their passion, their energy, their stories with me, and it provides me with the fuel I need to keep going. I'm a Black woman, a labor organizer, a woman of faith, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a proud immigrant from the island of Jamaica. For over 15 years, I have had the honor to work alongside amazing allies while at the SEIU State Council and now at 32BJ to support legislation like paid family leave, the $15 minimum wage, in-state tuition for undocumented immigrants, and so many other tremendous victories. I would have never had this privilege without the inspiration of strong women in my life. In Jamaica, my high school friends who have now become my family looked after each other when trouble was at our door. My mother, like many other amazing women, worked physically demanding jobs to support my sister and I. I am surrounded by a loving and amazing village that allows me to thrive and be myself. My family, including my loving husband and my children, remain my guiding lights. And I take tremendous inspiration from female leaders here and across the nation. The tragedies of this year can never be undone, but we must remember that in 2020, we have also seen the nomination of the first female vice president of color, Kamala Harris, a daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants. we have experienced the words and deeds of women rising to the challenges across this nation and the state. I have watched women like our amazing honorees continue to demonstrate clear leadership and compassion throughout this crisis. As I'm recording this, a week or so before a national election like we have never known, but regardless of the outcome, we will still need to demonstrate tireless leadership and opposition to a system where injustices will not change overnight, no matter who is in the White House. In the days ahead, you will have moments where you feel like giving up. In a world filled with so much despair and hate, it's easy to get weary in well-doing. As we face these daily struggles against a system designed to oppress our most vulnerable, we have to remember that no matter how hard the obstacles we face in the fight for justice, for all, it's important to know who you are and to remain true to your passions and your values. I know this fight for justice is bigger than me. It's about leaving this world a little bit better for my amazing children. It's also about staying united and strong in the face of what sometimes feels like insurmountable obstacles, and speaking directly to your mountain of despair that we will remain resolute in this fight. Hate, greed, and division will not prevail. I take courage from Maria Miller Stewart, who this award was named after. She was an African-American women's rights activist and an abolitionist who spoke out at a time when no woman, Black or white, dared to speak publicly. And she said, "Shall I, for fear of feeble man who shall die, hold my peace? Shall I, for fear of scoffs and frowns, refrain my tongue? Ha! No, I take strength in the challenge." And I think about all the amazing women honored here today, and from all the personal and political inspirations that I've drawn over my life. I close by adding the staff of CWEALF to that list. We could have never known how deeply vital the work that you did to pass paid family leave last year would turn out to be. You have been one of the most effective advocacy organizations in this state. Again, I am humbled by your honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. It has been such an honor to recognize all these women during this extraordinary year. The work they have done, even under the most unprecedented circumstances, is inspiring. It has been my pleasure to be working with CWEALF and continuing the legacy of one woman. I would like to take a moment to also acknowledge the staff at CWEALF who have gone so far above and beyond in continuing without interruption to serve our communities, to commit to the work that needs to be done in times that have demanded much more from them than ever before. As we close out this piece, let's take a look back at how CWEALF has innovated to continue to serve our community this past year. I thank all of you for joining us, and I urge you to help CWEALF by being a champion for women and girls. Thank you so much.